Good Saturday morning, everybody. What is this hippie nonsense? Where's the Looney Tunes song and all that? Well, this isn't a Looney Tunes, kids. This isn't a Merry Melodies. It's technically a cartoon special, Norman Normal. And those hippies over there that you see, those are, that's technically Peter, Paul, and Mary. And there you go, right there. Paul Stookie. Not Paul Dixon. Paul Stookie is the Paul of Peter, Paul, and Mary. And this is kind of his baby, his pet project. I would also call it his vanity project. This was brought to my attention by commenters on previous commentaries. I think D-Man is responsible. D-Man, the captain. I could be mistaken. I apologize if I am. This is certainly an odd duck in the. Basically, the only reason to watch this is to watch it with commentary, because it's not entertaining on its own. Norman Normal is a Peter, Paul, and Mary song, and apparently Paul Stookie had designs, no pun intended, of there being more Norman Normal cartoons that he would voice. He would do the voice of Norman. And this is basically Norman trapped in his own head. The plot of the whole thing is that...
Well, then go take Tommy's glove away. You don't come anymore.
But
By the way, I think that's Dawes Butler. He doesn't get credit, but for some reason...
Oh, yeah?
I bet you can't do it.
I can't.
That sounds a lot like Dawes Butler to me. I don't know. I could be wrong. But anyway, as I was saying, this was kind of his thing. Seven Arts, as pertain, Warner Brothers and Seven Arts, the theatrical Warner Brothers cartoons, that kind of stuff. This era, it's the ending days, the final days, and in terms of quality, the Seven Arts stuff is like the Filmation of its time for the Warner Brothers. It's the end of the studio. It just in terms of quality, not in terms of popularity. But this thing is based. I love the eyeglass theory there. This character here, who has a very interesting head shape, is basically, that's the only interesting thing about him. He's kind of trapped in his own head, and he's kind of like a basic bitch, except that he's a man, and he's dealing with all this stuff from his dad. Here's his dad, telling him to blend in, and his boss telling him to take promotions, and it's weird because it's kind of a the irony of it is that it's like it's a cry against mediocrity in the most mediocre way possible. And the worst part about it is that it doesn't feel like, like if I didn't know that it was the backing piece, or there was a piece of history to the song Norman Normal, just in having researched this, I would feel as though it's a companion piece to something else, because it doesn't feel complete on its own. That being said, Paul Stookie, who is also voicing Norman here, he envisioned future cartoons with that Norman character, and I think you'll agree with me in saying, thank goodness the studio shut down, because it was not to be. But the character, the design of Norman here was... he was previously designed by Milton Glaser. Now, he was designed for this cartoon specifically by one of the animators, Volis Jones, but it was kind of a reworking of Milton Glaser's design for Norman, because I think it was for like an album or something like that for Peter, Paul, and Mary. But as is often the case, something that works graphically in, just in print might not necessarily animate. They had a similar problem with Snoopy, with the first Charlie Brown special, because Charles Schultz wanted it to look like his cartoon naturally, but there were certain positions that he never drew that you have to kind of address in animation, simply because graphically it works to do it another way. I also, but Milton Glaser, definitely deserves a lot of credit for. I couldn't find any I couldn't find any drawings of Norman Milton's Norman online, but I have a feeling he is responsible specifically for Norman's head shape there. I imagine that's the holdover from the original design. If you don't know who Milton Glaser is off the top of your head, he's responsible for the I Love New York logo. He's saying he's sorry that things got a little confusing, but really he should be apologizing for making such a mediocre piece of shit cartoon. But he wouldn't know what mediocre is because he's in Peter, Paul, and Mary, which is the height of mediocrity and awfulness. And that's just my opinion, but the thing about my opinion is that it's actually right. Anyway, guys, see you next week.
She looks a lot like you.